Well, there are meetings going on all over the world on Gaza, and the reason is very simple. It was the greatest war crime in the shortest period of my lifetime. And to make a comparison with it, for those that find that interesting, at the time of 9/11, in a city of 8 million people, 2,960 were killed. In Gaza, in a community of 1 million, 1,300 were killed. So it's on a far bigger scale than 9/11. And the weapons that were used by the Israelis, phosphor bombs which burned people up, the bombing of hospitals, the bombing of mosques, the bombing of civilians, and now revelations coming out from Israeli soldiers who were fighting of the instructions they were given as to how they should conduct the fight against civilians. And now Roger Falk, I think, of the United Nations Human Rights Council, has said that in his opinion these war crimes should be examined and it will be considered by the UN. I'm sure the Americans will try to veto it, but there's absolutely no question about it that this has been a turning point in the post-war relationship between the Palestinians and the Israelis. And I think that the attitude of people in this country and even in America towards Israel has been transformed by what has happened. Up until now, you know, if you supported the Palestinians, they tried to say you were anti-Semitic or something of that kind. But now, I think people understand much more clearly what is going on. And of course, Netanyahu, the new Prime Minister of Israel, assuming he assembles his coalition, is opposed to a Palestinian state. He says he's changed his mind, but I wouldn't believe it. I think the Israeli policy is designed to complete the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, to get rid of all the Palestinians, at least leave them there in harmless little pockets surrounded by walls, and then Israel will be what it intends and wants to be, a superpower in the Middle East with nuclear weapons. It is now, I think, the 5th most powerful nuclear weapons state in the world. They don't even admit they have them. The Americans, who know all about it, don't really ever admit they have them. And now we know from quite a number of statements made in Israel they want to launch an attack upon Iran. So that is the situation that we face. And I think that what we have to try to do at this moment is a number of very clear things. First of all, to explain the history of this. This is a colonial intervention by Israel, just as the British occupied Palestine after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, and then now the Americans see Israel as their permanent base in the Middle East. And it is going to end with an absolute disaster if, and I fear it could be, Israel, even without American permission, decides to bomb Iran. I think insofar as I can put it in clear language, this could be the beginning of the Third World War. And so that's the background against which we meet. And everybody knows, I don't have to say it, everybody knows that in effect the American policy is the one that determines it. Whether Israel is a colony of America or America is a colony of Israel doesn't much matter. Israeli policy controls American policy, and although Obama has made a few changes, withdrawing some combat troops from Iraq, and he even mentioned yesterday an exit strategy from Afghanistan, as far as Israel is concerned, not only Obama but also Hillary Clinton, utterly committed to the Israeli cause. And I have to say this because it's a part of the problem. The policy of the British government on this has been absolutely disgraceful. They've gone along with everything that the Americans have wanted, with Bush and now Obama. They follow along in the sense that they have not made the contribution they could have made. And if you take a simple issue like the attempt to starve Gaza into submission with the blockade, Britain has naval base in Cyprus, has warships in Cyprus, and could and should have used those warships to escort convoys with food and materials to Gaza, and they didn't do it. And they say the criticism of Hamas is they don't recognize Israel. But I mean, it's very difficult to recognize a country that hasn't even told you what its frontiers are. If you try to ask the Israelis what their frontiers are, oh, well, you know, the settlements are going on, East Jerusalem we've taken over, and so on. And anyway, Hamas won the election in Palestine and is not accepted. and they say Hamas is a terrorist organization. Well, compared to the damage done by the Israeli army, which I think is terrorism on a massive scale, these arguments carry no weight whatever. And what's exciting to me and interesting is that things in this country have changed so rapidly as a result of the campaigns by the Stop the War and by the Palestine Solidarity campaign. I think the fact that students occupied universities and forced some of the universities to divest from their investments in Israel is an indication of popular opinion. And even in America, where if you're not 100% pro-Israel, you're hounded by the media, some American universities have been occupied by students. And so there is a background against which we can be, I don't say unduly optimistic, but it's a totally different situation than it was 10 years ago. But we've also got to think of it, I think, in the context of the present crisis, because this economic crisis, which is going on a global scale, is having absolutely devastating effects on people all over the world.